Ladies and gentlemen, for the last 24 hours, the left-wing propaganda apparatus has been absolutely melting down. You see, they've been falsely accusing Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth of leaking classified messages, again, and even going so far as to suggest that President Trump is looking to replace him. And so where did this story originate? Well, none other than NPR. Shocking, I know. The very same NPR that just last week published a completely fabricated story claiming that the Department of Government Efficiency was somehow working with Russian hackers. At this point, let's just be honest. It seems like all NPR does is industrially manufacture fake news. It's just one fake news story after another, knowing full well that every other corporate media outlet is going to pick it up and run with it. Zero accountability, just pure coordinated disinformation straight from the deep state playbook. But ladies and gentlemen, I'll tell you what, the Trump administration is not taking these fake news allegations lightly. The official White House Rapid Response account on X spent all day yesterday calling out NPR, correcting the record, and blasting their nonstop lies with absolute facts. Because let's be real, this isn't journalism, it's political sabotage. This is a deliberate, coordinated campaign by the deep state and progressive media apparatus to try and take down Secretary Pete Hegseth, one of President Trump's most loyal allies, by the way, in a last-ditch effort to derail the America First agenda. And as I'm sure many of you know, the attacks on Pete Hegseth are copy-pasted from the very same deep state template we've seen before. Remember the Russiagate hoax? Same tactics, same strategy, same goal: destroy any America First leader who dares to fight on behalf of the American people. And so why are they targeting Pete Hegseth? Because he's doing the job that he was appointed to do: clean house at the Pentagon. That includes firing leakers, draining the swamp, and restoring actual accountability in our military leadership. And you know what, folks? Real quick, let's talk about the progressive media's hypocrisy with all of this. The very same progressive media outlets that are smearing Pete Hegseth had absolutely nothing to say about Hillary Clinton's email server, or Podesta's leaked Gmail account, or Hunter Biden's laptop from hell. No, you see, when it comes to the progressives, the media suddenly forgets how to carry out an investigation. Also, all of these so-called allegations against Pete Hegseth are completely unverified. All of them are based on anonymous sources with no proof and no names. It's the same old game, and we are not playing along anymore. And so next, I want you guys to take a listen to what Pete Hegseth himself had to say about all of this. But first, I want to say real quick that if you guys enjoy the daily news updates, please consider subscribing to the channel because it really does help a ton with my daily struggle here on YouTube. But alright, take a look at what Pete Hegseth had to say about all of this.
You know, what a big surprise that a few leakers get fired and suddenly a bunch of hit pieces come out from the same media that peddled the Russia hoax. Won't give back their Pulitzers. They got Pulitzers for a bunch of lies. Pulitzers for a bunch of lies and on hoaxes, time and time and time again. And as they peddle those lies, no one ever calls them on it. See, this is what the media does. They take anonymous sources from disgruntled former employees, and then they try to slash and burn people and ruin their reputations. Not going to work with me, because we're changing the Defense Department, putting the Pentagon back in the hands of warfighters, and anonymous smears from disgruntled former employees on old news doesn't matter. So I'm happy to be here at the Easter egg roll with my dad and my kids, because, you know, this is what we're doing it for. These kids right here. This is why we're fighting the fake news media. This is why we're fighting slash and burn Democrats. This is why we're fighting hoaxsters. Hoaxsters. This group, no, this group right here, full of hoaxsters that peddle anonymous sources from leakers with axes to grind, and then you put it all together as if it's some news story. And when we know it, we know exactly what it is. So I'm really proud of what we're doing for the president, fighting hard across the board, and I'm going to go roll some Easter eggs with my kids. Thank you.
So ladies and gentlemen, just like Pete Hegseth himself just said, all of these allegations are completely baseless and most certainly coming from disgruntled deep state actors that the Trump administration has gotten rid of. And so, just to be absolutely clear, President Trump isn't replacing Pete Hegseth, which means the progressive smear job has completely failed. In fact, both publicly and privately, the president has reaffirmed his full support for Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth. And guess what? Pretty much the entire America First movement stands in solidarity with him as well. We're all standing shoulder to shoulder with Pete Hegseth, pushing back against the lies, the leaks, and the progressive insanity. Because, as you all know, this is exactly what the deep state progressive apparatus truly fears. A Pentagon that actually serves the American people, a Secretary of Defense who puts our warfighters first, and a leadership team that actually puts the interests of America first rather than a bunch of traitorous globalists. You want to talk about real threats to democracy? Try a bunch of unelected bureaucrats working inside of the Pentagon that are trying to push their own globalist progressive agenda. That is a threat. And make no mistake, as we now know, there are former Pentagon aides and career insiders right now actively trying to sabotage the America First agenda by leaking lies and weaponizing the media. It is a complete and total betrayal of the America First movement. Because the radical progressives and globalists know that they have absolutely no ground to stand on right now, they're just running with a never-ending series of fake news stories in an effort to undermine President Trump. And like we said earlier, this is actually the second verifiably fake news story in just the last week alone to come out of NPR. It's actually astounding that anyone still takes them seriously. Between you and me, in my opinion, NPR should lose all of their federal funding and be shut down altogether because all they do is manufacture fake news progressive bait, hoping that someone latches on. Seriously, they just keep pumping out these fake news stories, quoting anonymous insiders that always end up being imaginary. Like I said, they just keep trying to bait people into believing their bullcrap. But ladies and gentlemen, here is the truth. The Trump administration isn't taking the bait, and also, neither are we. Now, folks, before we wrap up with today's video, I want to say real quick that I've actually gone ahead and made a community Facebook page where I'll be posting additional news and updates as it relates to all of this. So, hey, if you guys use Facebook, check out the pinned comment down below and give that page a follow. But everyone, that is going to be a wrap for today's video, so please go down below and drop a comment. Let me know what you think about all of this. Please like the video while you're down there. Also, if you guys enjoy the daily news updates, please consider subscribing to the channel because it really does help a ton. Thank you all very much for tuning in today, and of course, as always, stay safe.